Well, 2024 has come and gone, and with it tons of brand new video games just waiting to be experienced for the first time. In an age where video games release only to be shut down 2 weeks after release or major layoffs in the industry, it's important to look at all the good games that have come out during these challenging times. Whether they be new IPs, remakes / remasters from long-standing franchises, or even DLCs of older games, there's something here for everyone to play and appreciate. And today, I'm here to count down the games that I enjoyed the most from this year. Hey, my name is Jude, and this is my top 5 games of 2024. Let's rock it. Number 5, Super Mario Party Jamboree. The latest and greatest entry in the long-running Mario Party series, this game brings several new boards and new mechanics that made this an absolute blast to play on stream with the Night Crew. Yeah, there's kind of a new story mode in this one, but I don't know if y'all know about this, but people don't play Mario Party for the story. Y'all are here to see how this game makes you want to end your friendships and divorce your spouses. The game features several old and new boards to run around and steal people's coins and stars from, like the Roll'em Raceway, which lets you buy dice to race around the track at lightning fast speeds, along with my personal favorite, the Rainbow Galleria, which has you collecting several stamps to earn more coins back at the beginning and features every SpongeBob fan's favorite meme, escalators. Then there's returning boards from previous games that can be unlocked, like the Western Land from Mario Party 2, which lets you hop on a train to fast travel to the map, and any player foolish enough to stay on the tracks better get ready to go back to the start of the map if they get hit. Speaking of which, this game can be sadistic with how you can screw over other friends. Like the new dual glove item, which lets you fight a player for any amount of coins, the steel traps that can be placed down to rob a player of their coins, or worse yet, their stars. And the best new mechanic to be added, that being the buddy system, in which a random player like Mario or Waluigi will spawn on the map, and if a player runs into them, all 4 of your friends have to fight for their love and affection. No, seriously, requiring you to play various long minigames to secure them for the next few turns, and they can do some devilish things. The worst one being able to steal not 1, but 2 stars from an opponent of your choosing. Alright, so if you haven't figured it out yet, this is by far the most toxic Mario Party to date, with its rage-inducing moments that make you want to throw the controller across the room, along with many old and new minigames that are sure to make you hate your friends. If you're looking for a party game, look no further. Number 4, Marvel Rivals. Insert Overwatch is dead joke here. Rivals is the brand new hotness of taking Marvel's beloved comic book superheroes and making a hero shooter out of them. And yet, somehow this worked, because the game has been very successful and garnered over 10 million players within the first 72 hours. So if you know anything about hero shooters, you know the drill. You got your payload maps, your King of the Hills, and a deathmatch mode to boot. But one of the coolest parts of this game is the multitude of destructible environments. Got an annoying enemy hitting from afar? Shoot the walls to give them less of an advantage and you're golden. Though you can destroy plenty of walls and objects in the game, it will regenerate after a few minutes to keep the map from being too clustered. And where this game needs to shine, and it does, is its large roster. The game has over 30 playable characters right out of the gate, and every future character that joins the game will cost a hefty total of $3 and free cents. There's plenty of characters to pick and choose that fit your playstyle. And from the 70 hours I've clocked into this game, my personal favorites being Magneto, who plays similar to Sigma from Overwatch, in that he floats around the map shooting orbs at foes. Moon Knight for his crazy movement and ability to throw darts at enemies like a boomerang. Adam Warlock, who reminds me a bit of Zenyatta, since he can hold right click to shoot foes and deal high damage when charged. Oh, and he's got Mercy's ult from Overwatch, in that you literally res the whole team, you know, if you don't die before ulting. I also really enjoy Mantis, who does some of the best healing in the game and puts the sleep of death in her foes. And my personal favorite being Captain America, a fast-hitting tank that can jump into the backline and bully the enemy team. Oh, and I really love playing Penny Parker. Girl shuts them down with her mines and webs. 10 out of 10. And shout out to you if you can learn how to play some of the tougher heroes in this game, because they have a high skill ceiling, like your friendly neighborhood Evangelion reference. Even though I spent a lot of time in this game, I do think it needs more tanks and healers, because most of the roster is comprised of DPS characters. And the amount of people who insta-lock DPS in ranked is ridiculous, dude. And in case anyone was wondering, no, I am not someone who insta-locks DPS in ranked. Pick a healer, please. Just wait until we get Ultron in the game. He'll put the fear of God in all of them. Throw in some satisfying sound effects, a great art style, and you have a free-to-play game that reminds you of the good old days of OG Overwatch 1. Number 3, Unicorn Overlord. This brand new IP that Atlas releases will not be the last time we see them on this list. Unicorn Overlord is a real-time strategy game that has similar elements to the Fire Emblem franchise, but plenty of new gameplay features to make it stand out on its own. The game has you take control of Prince Elaine as he leads liberation to take back his kingdom from Zenoira, led by the evil overlord named, the Overlord. And he looks like a generic enemy, honestly. Yeah, that's really cool game. And honestly, that's about all I have to say about the plot for this one. The story of Unicorn Overlord takes a major backseat for the gameplay, which is a darn shame because look at these amazing character designs, dude. You put units in squads to march across the battlefield and have a limited amount of in-game time to complete the map before you get a game over. And the game gives you plenty of time to recruit new characters to build up your resistance, while also having you explore other far-off lands to help fight off Zenoira. You can upgrade formations by spending honor points to add even more units to them, and where you position your units in said formations is key to winning the day, like having units such as Elaine or Virginia at the front, or healers and archers like Scarlet and Rolf in the back. And once a unit reaches a certain level, they can be promoted into the second tier class, which gives them even more abilities to help fight off the enemy. And this is what kept me playing the game for several hours. Leveling up your units and experimenting with different team comps felt rewarding and worth sinking time into. Though the game can be a little on the easy side, even on the normal difficulty, though the difficulty does ramp up in some of the later levels. Another great advantage you have during battles are the various items and skills you can use. At the cost of ability points, you perform multiple actions that can turn the tide in your favor, like healing allies, raining arrows from above, or even a charge attack to topple them Zenoirans. And just like Fire Emblem, you're able to romance about everyone in the game, even the furries, after you gain enough affinity with your units via the Rampart conversations. Unfortunately, this is the main reason why I can't put this game any higher, in that the story and characters are extremely basic. Sure, there's some backstory and hints at lore, but we learn next to nothing about the roster in this army. That being said, out of everyone in the game, my personal favorite ended up being the previously mentioned Virginia, who is positively broken in the early game, with their strong stats and powerful skills that annihilates foes from a safe distance. If you're a fan of strategy RPGs, pick up this game, dude. It is very, very fun. And remember how I said you could romance anyone? Well, guess what? You can also romance Virginia, even though she is your cousin. Wow, if I had a nickel for every time a blue-haired waifu was a romanceable cousin, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's worth it to happen twice, right? Number 2, Metaphor ReFantazio. Insert just like Persona joke here, because Metaphor has the bones of a Persona game, but enough to make a new worthwhile experience. Shout out to the dev team Studio Zero for being able to bang this one out, since this game's been in development since 2016. It's a miracle it came out and turned out as well as it did, honestly. Metaphor has you entering the kingdom of Ukrania under the guise of an assassination plot to take down one of the throne candidates, the king murderer himself, Count Luis. And yet, despite being an evil monster, the people still crave for him to be their new king. Yeah, this game's pretty relevant in 2025 if you know what I mean. If you play Persona, a lot of this game will feel right at home with you. You've got a calendar system in which you'll need to complete the dungeon of the month before you get a game over, along with social links, now called followers in this one, which lets you unlock new job classes called archetypes, and they look super cool. One of the best parts of the game is that every unit can learn whatever archetype they want, letting you have a wide range of options on how you want to build your team. You could give your tank some time in the cleric class to get some healing spells, or perhaps you want to give your unit some more magic-based spells to boot. Though some archetypes are better for certain characters, like how Heisme is best for the thief class for its high agility. Also, the steal skill is super good in this game. Please use it. You will get insane rewards for it. And the game gets even better after you complete the first dungeon, when you get the Gauntlet Runner, a steampunk-looking bus in this fantasy world that lets you travel across the country. On top of that, when exploring the world, you can have encounters against other candidates for the throne while exploring on the Gauntlet Runner. However, for all my praise of the excellent story and great art style, this game can get really annoying with the difficulty spikes. There are several points where you'll need to climb tons of levels to take on the next dungeon, especially in the 3rd dungeon. This stupid dungeon has you fight mini bosses in less than 3 turns, and good luck on the last encounter, because now you have to beat 2 mini bosses at the same time. Oh, and there's also 4 stealth sections, but they're super easy, honestly. At least you get the sword surf at the end of the dungeon. On top of that really annoying dungeon, there are multiple side quests and dungeons that are heavily encouraged in this game. And good luck beating the dungeons in one day, because you will run out of MP very quickly in this game. Since the game has very little ways to restore MP at a fast rate. Sure, there is a mage archetype which lets you restore MP by killing enemies, but then you realize you only get one MP item restored per enemy you kill, which makes MP restoration take forever. That being said, I do appreciate the game having lower level foes be dispatched in a few single hits, which drastically cuts down the battle times. Plus, depending upon your currently equipped archetype, it'll change your character's moveset during overworld fights, and you better get those advantages during battles, dude, because you can die very quickly in this game. Well, at the very least, when the player character dies, you don't get an instant game over. Eat your heart out, Persona! I know I seem like I'm more ranting about this game than talking about how much I love it, but honestly, I do really love my time with Metaphor. With an excellent narrative that kind of carries the game, even though it has satisfying gameplay and a challenging battle system that can be very unfair at times, you have a brand new RPG that's worth your time if you ask me. There's also a demo to try out for a good chunk of the beginning if you're unsure, so thank you very much, Atlas. 8 years of game development definitely paid off. Also, Yufa is best girl, don't at me. And before we move on to number 1, here's an honorable mention going to Elden Ring, Shadows of the Erdtree. Because if Jeff Keighley can get a DLC nominated for Game of the Year, I guess I can yap about one of the most anticipated DLCs by From Software in a long time. I already talked about the DLC in a previous video earlier last year, so if you want to see more on that, link in the top right corner. But to recap, Shadows of the Erdtree has the Tarnished enter the realm of Shadow, and you're tasked with finding the demigod Mikola by exploring the land while fighting off various powerhouses that have been stashed away within the realm. Because this is a From Software DLC, the new area is built for endgame, but you can find what's known as Scadutree fragments to upgrade your stats to better take on the enemies and bosses. There's a lot to go and find in the Shadowy Erdtree, like exploring the Bellarat Tower settlement to face off against the Dancing Lion, or some more intense moments like the entirety of the Abyssal Woods, in which the game turns into literally Bloodborne, and you have to either sneak around enemies or parry them to death before you get riddled with madness. But the main game progression has you venturing off towards the Shadow Keep to fight the Mesmer boss and gain access to the final area. And just like the main game, a vast majority of the overworld content is completely optional, since out of the 9 major bosses, only 3 of them are mandatory to beat the DLC. Speaking of the bosses, holy moly, they went overboard on some of these fights. Sure, they do the Elden thing where they heavily delay their attacks, but some of these attack streams can get ridiculously long. The worst one being Commander Gaius at the end of the Shadow Keep, a boss that has one of the longest attack strings in the whole game, along with the worst hitbox in the form of his charging move. And, of course, the new hardest boss in all of From Software, that being the final boss himself, Consort Radahn. A boss that fans of the series still can't figure out if they really love it or really hate it. Though, as I mentioned in my previous video, the fights that I enjoyed the most include the Dancing Lion boss, Mesmer, and of course, the Cursed Bale! All of which were a spectacle to behold, with enough cinematic moments to make me want to go fight them over and over and over and over and over and over again. Along with brand new weapons to test out in the Shadow Realm, like the Death Knight Twin Axes, Devonia's Hammer, and my personal favorite weapon, that being the Flowerstone Gavel, a powerful hammer that deals an insane amount of damage with its Ash of War, Flower Dragon Bolt, that can zap foes halfway across the map. Enemies and bosses do not dodge this at all, and I really love that. While Shadow of the Erdtree may be a little more on the pricey side of DLC, ranging at about $40, I feel that the amount of new content, zones, weapons, and bosses makes up for it in the long run. And the best part is that it gives you even more what you wanted from the base game, more Elden Ring. And I wait patiently for Elden Ring Night Rain later this year. Hopefully that's good. Number 1, Persona 3 Reload. I talked a lot about Reload in my What Is video last year, so if you want to hear more on my guide for the game, link in the top right corner. But regardless, Atlus finally remade the game where it all started with tons of quality of life changes while keeping the spirit of the original intact. As someone who started with Persona 3 FES all the way back in 2015, they absolutely nailed it, especially considering that this is the 4th version of this game. The story is mostly unchanged from the original. You're the new transfer student who awakens to a persona and fights shadows to bring an end to the Dark Hour, which only occurs after midnight where everyone gets the coffin. Oh, and your high school becomes a giant tower at night. You know, typical high school stuff. You improve your social stats during the day, make friends with fellow students, while dungeon crawling through Tartarus at night. Also, you can prepare for the next full moon and take on whatever nightmare fuel the game throws at you. And taking down those shadows has never sounded better. They did a great job with remixing the original tracks of the OG battle theme, Mass Destruction. But the new battle theme called It's Going Down Now, holy moly, this track is a banger. One that took over TikTok for a very, very good reason. How in the world this game's OST wasn't nominated for Best Music at the Game Awards is anyone's guess. One of my favorite changes from the original was the removal of the fatigue system, which was the bane of my existence since it caused your party to stop grinding out in Tartarus. Now you can explore Tartarus for as long as you want until you run out of MP. You can also learn new moves like a sprint or an upswing to get the drop on enemies, along with letting you swap to an ally when you exploit enemy weaknesses, just like in Persona 5. And things get even better when you unlock the Theurgies, which are a spectacle to behold with their high animation quality and can turn the tide of battle very quickly in your favor. My favorite being both of Aigus's, where she brings in the Hammer of Dawn and Ryder kicks her way into the Ryuki opening. I think my absolute favorite part of this remake is how it captures the feelings and emotions that the original gave me all those years ago, with its heavy atmosphere that's been enhanced due to the graphical and visual improvements made with modern hardware, especially since every social link now is fully voice acted. Thank you, Atlas. Please do this again in Persona 6. To put it simply, it's the same Persona 3 that I enjoyed 10 years ago, but now graphically and visually improved. And even 10 years later, this game's ending still made me cry, which is very difficult for a narrative if you ask me. And I wait patiently for when I get to play the episode Aigis DLC, or maybe I'll stream it in the not so near future. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hope you have a blessed day. Take care.